In this example, we're going to look at a string compare operation that also relies on alphabetizing. I know in working with you guys with the chapter 9 material that this is one of the things that you were most curious about, how it is that we would actually get this to run. So as promised, because I know I gave the unsatisfactory answer 4 times last session, was just stick with us to next week, just stick with us to next week, and here's the part for next week. So this one is a small example, but you can scale this as large as you need to. We are using here string.h. It is a quirk of the difference between the C++ distributable that comes with like Microsoft, that goes with like Visual Studio, and this one that goes on the G++ side. So the open source license is, it's not include string, it's include string.h, the specific header for that. Look, there's a long explanation that will satisfy nobody. Just remember the .h. This is another one of those things that I had to comment back in to the code as opposed to commenting it or leaving it commented out. The first time I ran this, I just used include string and it did not work. I went to Xcode because I'm on my Mac, and that's where I can do native coding for C++. I used include string and it worked. And I thought, this is a problem. So then I went to Visual Studio Code, which is the native C++ for Microsoft distributable installed in there. And that one didn't work either. So then I remembered, let's try the .h, and the .h worked. So it's a different system in the different ways that a different system works with that. So if you find, and actually I wish I knew what the trigger for this was. I think it's because we're looking at this part here in string compare, where we hadn't done that in our previous example. The previous example ran just fine on string. This one does not. My suggestion to you is just include, like I have there on line number 3, the string.h, and comment it in if your code does not work. I do not have a universal maxim that I can tell you for Replit it's going to work this way. I have not found something that I can do that with. So I'll tell you honestly, it took me an extra 8 or 10 minutes, which is forever, when putting together this 28 line piece of code, because I had to figure out what the hell was going wrong with line number 3, where it was just include string. So for those of you who think we are infallibly coding these little pieces of code in the background, no. For those of you who think we are infallibly aware of all of the differences between the different systems here, no. This stuff still happens to us too. So don't beat yourselves up about, why isn't this working all the time? It doesn't work all the time for all of us. So that being said, what we are doing is we are taking two names. We are taking two names as character arrays. And what we're doing with those character arrays are we are comparing them. We are comparing them so we can put them in alphabetical order. So remember, string compare works this way. If you pass two strings to string compare, it compares them for their ASCII values. So what we've got here on line 21 is we are saying if the name 1 is the smallest, string compare will return -1. If name 2 is the smallest, it will return 1 as the number there. So that's what you're seeing here. It is a little bit of a thing to remember. So we're just going to go ahead and run this. So we're going to go last and then first. There we go. So omega, because that's the last character, alpha, because that's the first character. So it's going to put these alphabetically. Alpha, omega, just like that. That's what we expected to see. That is because this lines, or these lines rather, this lines, 22 and 23, it returned greater than 0. So name 2, alpha, is in fact smaller than name 1, omega. So that's the reason we get that return there. If we go ahead and run this again, we'll just go ahead and do beta and Charlie, even if I can't spell it correctly, surely. So even here, it does work because our first name is alphabetically smaller than our second name, so we get a -1 as our return. -1 is less than 0, so that is the cout that we get there. This is what we could do to use string compare to do some of those sorting operations like you saw, even though it is a little less efficient this way if we do it on a huge amount of data. But if we do this on a small amount of data, it's actually not so bad.